Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for today's webinar, A Look Behind the Scenes of Accela Building and Planning. My name is Gary Zepke. I am the Senior Director of Solution Engineering here at Accela. I will be the moderator for today. Real quick, a couple housekeeping items to go ahead and touch on. First, we will be recording this session and it will be available after today. We also will have the slides available after the webinar is complete as well. Last, we also have, in regards to questions, please post your questions in the QA section. You'll see a little icon on the bottom of your screen. Use that instead of the chat, and we will follow up on those shortly after the webinar as well. And then finally, if you do have any technical issues and need assistance, use the chat for those. So I am joined by two of my colleagues who are both senior solution engineers, Josh Ely and Eddie Hunt. And with that, today we're going to take you through three scenarios and take you through kind of what we feel is some of the common things we see and hear out in the field. First, we're going to touch on insights that empower decision making. Next, we'll talk about working on the go. And then finally, we're going to touch on the improving your actual collaboration to the overall organization. So one of the common things we hear throughout our prospecting and customers is, citizens and contractors become very frustrated with the amount of time it may take to apply for a permit, and it becomes a bottleneck due to the lack of guidance that they have. So Eddie and Josh, let's take them through a scenario where we can show them how Accela can help.
All right, thanks, Gary. So with Accela, your users have access to insights across all of the different services that you're running on the platform, from permits to licensing, service requests, code enforcement, inspections, and other regulatory and compliance processes. And these insights are delivered in dashboards with a number of different visual formats, really to help your users better understand the information that you have in the system and how you're performing against your metrics, and really enable you to make better decisions that really help improve customer satisfaction, as well as maximize resources and money for your organization. And so today we're going to take a look at an example that how to use insights to do just that. And what Gary mentioned there, when we look at building and permitting processes as an example, and really understanding what's happening, uncovering problems, and either whether the data uncovers it or whether the data supports the feedback that you're getting from your customers, it's here in place, ready for you to use. And so with this dashboard here, you can see across the top, we're just looking at some statistics around, number of permits that have been submitted, how many have been denied and issued over a period of time. And then lastly, on average, how long is it taking to get those permits issued? And so these could be, key measures and targets that you want to hit in terms of delivery out to your customers. Along the bottom are some graphs that show you some information that trends over periods of time, like numbers of applications, applications by category and type of permit, as well as the revenue being generated. But really what draws our attention here today is just the number here in terms of those being denied throughout that process. And so we want to dive a little deeper into that and see, why is that happening and what can we do to help maybe fix that? And in this case, we're seeing that, some of them are not approved. Maybe that's because of an ordinance, didn't need an ordinance, or didn't have the right documentation, things like that. But also we're seeing a high number where applications are being submitted as the wrong type. And we hear that quite frequently, that citizens are confused or not sure which application to submit. And so that leads to the wrong application being submitted and some rework time for everybody that's involved. These graphs help support, where is that happening most frequently? And here we're seeing it's happening in additions, it's happening in new residential, as well as in alterations, and a little bit less frequent in some of these smaller number items like electrical and mechanical. And so we can now, with this information, we can better understand maybe where we need to help guide citizens in that process, so that we can resolve that upfront before those are coming into our offices. And Eddie's going to take you through an example of using premium citizen experience to really improve that customer journey and guide your customers through the process of submitting applications.
All right, thanks, Josh. So I am out here in the Accela Premium Citizen Experience, so putting my citizen hat on here, and this is the digital front door to your community. So it's really important that you provide them with easy guidance to the correct applications in this particular example that we're walking through. So it's easy to, of course, format a website, as you know, with paths that take you to, say, a list of applications, maybe even descriptions, but many citizens don't have the knowledge or the building acumen to really distinguish between the different types of applications. And in the example Josh gave, residential alterations and additions in particular. So what we provide is a permit decision tool. And using this predictive search, I type in the word permit and it takes me to a result of permit decision tool. So this is a wizard type experience that is built out by the agency. And the design here is to present the citizen with simple questions about their project to guide them to the exact application that they need. So minimize emails, returning applications saying this is the wrong type, phone calls, showing up in person. We want this to be just a streamlined process. So we can build questions and the answers to those questions lead to other questions, right? So in this particular example, let's say we're renovating a residential property. So we know we're going to do a renovation, but we don't know what application we need to submit. So we can select the location either on the map or use your current location. And then we ask questions. The answers to these questions lead to other questions until we know what type of permit the citizen needs. So if I say no to these, you can see I keep getting more and more questions. So let's say, for example, I say no to changing the floor area, yes to changing the height. It stops me there and says continue. And it gives me a response. Here's what you need. A residential alteration permit is required. You can follow this link to get to the application. Also presents other information. It's going to cost you this much. And you're going to need to upload these documents as part of your application. And based on where you live, you may need a planning permit because you fall into a historical district. Now, had I answered those questions slightly differently, let's say I said yes to the first question, and I continue, now it's going to tell me you need a residential addition permit as opposed to an alteration. Also says how much it's going to cost, the plans you need to upload, and that you need a planning permit because it's the same address. So providing your citizens this guidance, getting them to the right application, the right permit the first time, with limited knowledge on their end of what these permits mean, is really important to reduce those number of denied applications that Josh showed us.
All right, great. Thanks, Eddie and Josh. So as you can see, having the data in front of you and being able to analyze the data to make decisions is very powerful when you look at an overall system. So it gives you the capability to gain complete visibility into bottlenecks and course correct. In the example here, we can change the actual guiding of the customer so that it's a streamlined process for them. You can adapt and adjust your processes to assist with efficiency gains, and those can be done on the fly as periodically as you need. And then empowering users at all levels to make timely strategic decisions. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next scenario, which is talking about work on the go. This is one that should hit home with a lot of the folks on the call here today. And we hear this commonly throughout, and I'm actually going to talk about an example that I just went through in my own personal life here, where inspection process becomes inefficient. Manual call-in, manual schedule, paper-based inspection recording. It creates a lot of extra work for the inspectors, duplicate entry and such, which then causes frustration for both your citizens and your contractors and the builders. So I had an example last week where my builder called me and said, hey, you know what? Do you have your C of O from when you moved in 2 years ago? I said, well, no, I don't. And he basically said, well, the inspector is going to come out tomorrow. Inspector came out. As soon as he walked up the door, he said, I remember inspecting this house. He's like, I'm not sure why it wasn't final. And I'm looking at him, and he's got a clipboard in his hand. And I said, well, that's probably part of the reason is because you bring the clipboard, you go and you do the inspection, and you walk back and 20 different things distract you before you get back to the office to record it. So now what we're going to do is let's show you how, Eddie, just take a look through how we can help eliminate that process as well.
All right, thanks, Gary. So as a citizen, I'm going to pick up right where I left off. I'm out here at the Premium Citizen Experience, and I have projects either as a citizen or a contractor that are in motion. And at some point, I'm always going to be ready for an inspection. So we want to make it really easy on the citizen to schedule or request the inspection, and we can do that through the portal here. So type in the word inspect, I get schedule, request, and inspection. I'm provided with a list of all of my projects that are in process. And I've got one here in particular that's at the inspection phase. And this is the one where I want to schedule an inspection. So I just go right into this record. I can see the status is that it's at the inspection phase. I have the record number. I know a little bit about it. I've got the location here. I can look at all the record info, the details, the history of the processing status, any related records or attachments. But today I want to schedule my inspection. So I just go to schedule or request an inspection. And first, I'm going to be provided a configured list of inspections that apply to my project. And I know right now I'm ready for my framing inspection, so I'm going to select that from the list. And then I'm provided with a calendar, and I'm going to select open dates. And as an agency, you can decide which days of the week are available and what time frames are available on those dates. So in this particular example, it's just morning and afternoon. So I'm available the morning of February 21st. So I'm going to take that. Continue through, make sure that contact information is accurate, that it pulls through. And then I have the option to include notes to the inspectors. So if I have a gate or something like that, or a door key, whatever it may be, I can provide that gate code in this case. And then that'll be presented to the inspector on their mobile device. Now, also based on the discipline of the inspectors and the district of your inspectors, it's going to automatically assign this inspection to one inspector based on, if they are available, if they perform those types of inspections, and they perform inspections in that particular area. And now Josh is going to show you what that looks like from the inspector's point of view.
All right, thanks everybody. All right, I get to take over the role of inspector. It's usually everybody's favorite person, I think. So with Accela Mobile, your inspectors, your field users, all have access to Accela from their device of choice, whether it's a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, and it can be run on iOS, Android, or Windows devices. It also works natively offline. So if you're in areas where you don't have good connectivity or access to Wi-Fi, you're still able to use Accela Mobile to conduct your work. So truly a solution to work completely on the go for your field teams who are out in the community doing inspections or enforcement investigations, things like that. When they launch the application, they're presented with their job list. So these are the inspections that are assigned to them over here on the left-hand side, along with a map of where those inspections are to take place in that community. And they can interact with either side of that to conduct their work. And they also have some quick tools here along the bottom of their job list to be able to review any information. So you can see things, notes that the contractor or citizen have requested. You can use the tools of the device to reach out and let them know that you're on the way. Maybe it's a text message or a phone call, quickly get access to that contact information. So help improve communication in that process, or get directions to that. In the job list itself, so in that inspection record, they have access to go all the way back to the permit if needed, to review any of the information related to that permit. And they also have a series of things that they can interact with to conduct their work. So as an example, documents. So if you need to review plans ahead of time before conducting that inspection, those are things that they'll have access to right there on their tablet and device, so they can review that ahead of time, understand what it is that they're looking at, what needs to be reviewed, and get better prepared for that, walking through that job site. To conduct the work using simple checklists that are tied specifically to the type of inspection, gives your inspectors exactly what they need to review and sign off on, or document their findings where issues may need to be corrected. And if there are issues that arise, they can simply indicate that an item didn't pass. They can take a picture of it right there while they're evaluating it, or they can choose from their photo or video library. And when they choose that item, they can then make their notes or annotate, where the problems are, circling things, writing their notes, and then attach that right to that checklist item. So it's part of that system of record, and will be part of the inspection report that gets emailed out to the contractor or the citizen, the contact on that record. So everything's documented right there on the go. They can simply complete their checklists, and when they're done with that, they have a couple of other options depending on what they need to be able to do. Overall comments, if they need to make any notes or things that they want to appear on the inspection report that weren't specific to an item. If they needed to flag any conditions that might need to drive a stoppage of work, they're able to do that right here from the mobile device and have that trigger other processes in the system. And then make any other, updates to record time or mileage or things to track costs. But simply at the end of it, they're going to result it. And they're going to identify what was needed. Is it passed? Is it failed? Maybe correction required for that. And stepping through this process, again, bringing in the option to finalize with notes and have sign off. So sign off from themselves as the inspector, as well as get that responsible party who's on the job site with them to sign off on that here. So that's part of that system of record and can be seen as part of that inspection report. When they're done, they submit it. And then that triggers off the additional workflows and notifications that happen post-inspection, depending on what occurred on site there. So really easy for them to document things on the go. No clipboards, like Gary was talking about, no paper, no having to go back to the office to make any updates or pass things to administrative folks to make updates in the system.
All right, thanks, Josh, Eddie. So as you can see, when we talk about working on the go, this truly gives you complete digital transformation. You can see that you're going to have the increased communication, full transparency for both staff and citizens and contractors and such. And then also inspections being recorded electronically for real-time results and communication. So eliminating that bottleneck, or you think about the contractor who calls in for an actual inspection in the morning and then has to wait till the actual inspector gets back at lunch or in the afternoon to actually put all the results into the system. So this really streamlines that process going forward. Let's now go ahead and take a look at our last scenario, which we're going to talk about improving collaboration. So we've talked about, and we've shown you a little bit about streamlining the building planning operations, but we still haven't looked at it as the overall enterprise efficiency. There's a lack of collaboration, visibility with other departments and systems as part of the actual process, still causing delays and frustrations. And what we mean by that is a lot of folks feel that, and take, for example, if part of your organization is on Accela and other parts have different systems, that's okay within our system. We allow for that, and it's okay to go ahead and use the system to improve on that capability. And what we're going to do now is show you an example of how we can improve on that collaboration. Eddie and Josh?
All right, so we're going to revisit this from the starting point of insights again. And this time we're looking at a dashboard that's more specific to planning information. And in this scenario, we're going to walk through a planning process and talk about the opportunities for improvement in that area. And what you can see across the top is just some statistics around, total projects that have been done over the last period of time, as well as the value that it's bringing to the community, and along with the revenue that the agency is generating as a result of these projects. And again, measuring one of the key performance indicators of how long is it taking these projects to complete. Some visuals to view information over periods of time below, whether that's projects and revenue, along with what types of planning applications are generating the most activity. And then over here, finally, on the right-hand side is a map to be able to interact with and visualize where that planning activity, where that growth is taking place in the community, and be able to see that information from a mapping standpoint. But for this, what really draws our attention is the time it's taking to complete these projects. And so we want to dive into that and see what's causing that, or where we have some opportunity for improvement. And so with that, again, we're seeing in this case a specific planning workflow that we're looking at, getting some statistics around that. We can see that with these metrics that on average, we're close to 2 months late for our tasks based on what we desire. We're seeing a wide range, completing project as low as 60 days, but one taking as long as a couple of years almost. And then also just visually, how many of our tasks are being delivered on time or completed on time, and how many of them are late. So really quickly, we can see that we've got some potential problems and maybe some room for improvement in this. On the right-hand side, what we're able to look at is the process itself. So here are the different stages of that process, and then how long is each stage taking to complete. And we can see the longest portion of our project here is the application review stage, taking well over 100 days to finish up. And then down below, we're looking at it from the standpoint of being on time in different stages. And so what we're seeing here is that, again, application review is an anomaly. It's taking on average 75 days longer than the 30 days that we desire. So this would be an area to dig into and understand, what's happening, investigate with the folks who are involved in that, to see how we can optimize that workflow. And Eddie's going to walk through what that workflow looks like in Accela and how it can be leveraged to make those improvements.
All right, thanks, Josh. So now I am logged into the Accela back office as a user, and after some digging, it's been determined that this application review bottleneck is really being caused by the fact that there's a lot going on external to the Accela system when it comes to application review for this particular planning workflow. Multiple departments being involved, emails having to go out and come in just to satisfy the review requirement. So what we want to do is show you how to bring those departments into the process and do so using our workflow designer tool. And then how we can actually just apply changes to workflow very easily with our tool because of its ease of use. So I'm actually going to go into the workflow designer, kind of show you a before and after of making changes to one of our workflow processes. So I'm going to open up the kind of the current process. So this would be the one that Josh showed analytics on. And if I zoom in on this early stages here, you can see that the application review step right here this is the bottleneck. And what we can do here is add more review processes, departmental reviews, rather than just kind of having this, lump application review that goes out to all these departments and is causing slowdowns in the process. Because this is so user-friendly, all I need to do is start dragging tasks into the workflow, and then I give them names such as building department review. And it's just an exercise in really connecting the dots and assigning which statuses and which users you want to each review step, and then assigning this new workflow to your existing processes. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to show you the after. Let me just zoom in on this. And what you see now is an adjustment to this application review step. It's still all really part of step 2. But what we have going on are concurrent departmental reviews here. So you can see we have a building department review, which is assigned to the building department and specifically staff member Barry Benson. And then a planning department review, which is assigned to Pedro Carranza. And then a fire department review assigned to David Maxwell. So all of these users, when the application intake is accepted, are going to receive notifications that their action is required on this particular planning application. They can all concurrently review the record, looking at the same record information, the same documents, the same details, and speed that process up and get that 100+ days down to something more acceptable. Now I'm going to jump back into a record and to show you an intake and watch it get accepted and watch it get assigned simultaneously to multiple users. So we have this application intake for a rezoning application for a new donut shop. So if I get into this record, and I'm going to go jump right into the workflow. So you can see right now, this is sitting at the application intake phase. And as soon as the intake specialist or tech accepts it after initial review, it's going to create parallel tasks. So you can see right here, it's going to go to planning, building, and fire, like I just showed you. So when I save this, we now have in progress 3 different reviews, and you can see all of them have been assigned to those particular users. They're all going to receive notifications so that they can take action immediately. They all look at the same record. So they all have access to what we're looking at here, the record details, the documents. So everyone's looking at the site plan together. And if they make markups or comments, it's all going to be live in real time. They're all going to be sharing the same information at the same time, and hopefully really reducing that processing time down to what we're looking for as a target, and making the entire planning process more efficient.
Great. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Josh. So again, this is, looking at the overall improving of collaboration. So as you can see here, being able to automate and streamline the workflow, and you can see the power of the workflow and how easy it is to use. Share and collaborate plans across departments, whether on Accela or another application. And that's key, right? So it's not just, again, as we're saying, the bottlenecks could be if you have a process in Accela and other folks are working in a different system, they can still be a part of it. We'll include them in the workflow. Therefore, they still have to bring their results to the table as well. And overall, big picture, full transparency and collaboration at all stages of your process. So with that, folks, that concludes our presentation for today. And as you can see, for building communities, these three areas are very important and bring a lot of value for insights, powering decisions, working on the go, and improving overall collaboration. So again, we want to thank you for your time, and we hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.